I never imagined that at 68 years old, I'd be learning the difference between blood and family from a homeless veteran living in a Vancouver shelter. But there I was on a freezing January night, my overnight bag beside me on a thin cot, watching my breath form clouds in the unheated room while my son slept in the house I'd paid for. Let me back up. My name is Robert Chen, and 3 weeks ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I'd spent 42 years as a structural engineer, mostly working on hospital and school projects across British Columbia. My wife, Linda, passed away 3 years ago from ovarian cancer, and since then, I'd been living alone in our house in Kitsilano, the one we'd bought in 1987 for $75,000 and was now worth about $2.3 million. According to the latest assessment, my son Brandon is my only child. He's 42, never married, worked sporadically in sales jobs that never seemed to stick. After Linda died, he started coming around more often. At first, I was grateful. The house felt so empty without her voice, her laugh, the sound of her humming while she gardened. Brandon would drop by for dinner, help with yard work, drive me to medical appointments. It felt like maybe grief had brought us closer. Then the requests started. Dad, I've got this amazing opportunity. A friend's starting a cryptocurrency exchange, ground floor investment. I just need $20,000 to get in. I gave it to him. Linda had left me her life insurance, $150,000. What else was I going to do with it? 2 months later, Dad, my car died. I need a vehicle for work. Can you help with the down payment? $15,000 would cover it. I gave it to him. 3 months after that, Dad, I'm so close to getting this sales director position, but I need to look the part. New wardrobe, some dental work. $10,000? I gave it to him. Over 2 years, I gave Brandon $93,000. My savings account, which had held $420,000 when Linda died, now had $314,000 left. My pension was $2,800 a month, plenty for me to live on, and I told myself I was helping my son find his footing. Linda would have wanted that. What I didn't know was that Brandon wasn't investing in anything except online sports betting and poker sites. I found out on January 14th, a Tuesday, when 2 men in expensive suits showed up at my door. Robert Chen, the taller one, asked. Yes? We're looking for Brandon Chen. We understand this is his address? He doesn't live here. This is my house. What's this about? They exchanged glances. Your son owes our client a significant sum of money. $217,000. To be specific, we're here to collect. My stomach dropped. I don't have that kind of money. But you own this house, don't you, Mr. Chen? That's worth quite a bit. This is my home. I've lived here for 37 years. We're not unreasonable people. We'll give Brandon 2 weeks to make arrangements. But Mr. Chen, I'd strongly suggest you encourage your son to take this seriously. Our client doesn't like waiting. After they left, I called Brandon. He didn't answer. I called 17 times. Finally, at 11 that night, he showed up. Dad, I can explain everything. $217,000? Brandon, what have you done? He slumped into Linda's chair, the one I'd kept exactly as she left it. I got in over my head. I thought I could win it back, but the odds? They're rigged, Dad. The whole system is rigged. How long has this been going on? 5 years? Maybe 6? I felt like I'd been punched. The money I gave you, all of it went to gambling? I was going to pay you back. I swear, I just needed one good streak. Brandon, I don't have $200,000. You know that. I gave you everything extra I had. He looked up then, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. But you have the house. No, absolutely not. This is your mother's house. This is our home. Dad, they're going to kill me. These aren't nice people. They've already threatened to break my legs. Then we go to the police. The police can't help. Don't you get it? I need money, now. And you're sitting on $2 million of equity. This isn't equity, Brandon. This is my home. Where would I live? There are retirement places. Nice ones. You don't need all this space anyway. I stared at my son, really looked at him, and realized I didn't recognize the person in front of me. "Get out. Dad, please, get out of my house. I'll help you figure something out, but I'm not giving you my home. Get out." He left, but not before I saw the look on his face. Not sadness or shame, anger. 3 days later, I woke up in the hospital. The last thing I remembered was having dinner, some leftover roast chicken I'd made. Brandon had stopped by unexpectedly, seemed apologetic, stayed for a cup of tea. Then nothing until I opened my eyes to fluorescent lights and a nurse checking my vitals at Vancouver General. "Mr. Chen, you're awake. How are you feeling? What happened? Why am I here?" "You were found unconscious in your home yesterday morning. Your son called the ambulance, said he stopped by, and found you collapsed. We've run tests. You had a significant amount of sleeping medication in your system." "Do you take sleeping pills, Mr. Chen?" "No, never." The nurse frowned. "The paramedics found an empty bottle of Zopiclone in your kitchen. It was prescribed to you 6 months ago?" I remembered then. After Linda died, I'd had trouble sleeping for a few weeks. The doctor prescribed pills. I took 3, hated how they made me feel, put the bottle in the back of the medicine cabinet, and forgot about it. I didn't take them. I would never take that many. Well, someone did. We had to pump your stomach. You're lucky your son found you when he did. But he didn't find me. The realization came slowly, like ice water in my veins. He drugged me. I discharged myself that afternoon against medical advice. The taxi dropped me at my house, and I knew something was wrong before I even got to the door. The lock was different. My key didn't work. I knocked. Brandon answered, but he didn't let me in. "What did you do?" I asked. "What I had to. You weren't being reasonable. Let me in my house." "It's not your house anymore, Dad. While you were in the hospital, I took care of some paperwork. Power of attorney. You signed it a year ago, remember? When you had that minor stroke scare?" I did remember. Brandon had been so concerned, so insistent that we needed to be prepared, just in case something happens, Dad. Just so I can help you. That doesn't give you the right to... I sold the house. Well, I'm in the process. I found a buyer, closing in 3 weeks. 2.1 million. That'll cover my debts and give me a fresh start. You can't sell my house. That power of attorney doesn't authorize that. I'll get a lawyer. I'll fight this. With what money, Dad? I also took care of your bank accounts, for safekeeping. You're clearly not making good decisions if you overdosed on sleeping pills. The bank agreed you need help managing your finances. I couldn't breathe. You drugged me. You're stealing my home, my money, everything. I'm protecting you from yourself. Look, I found a nice place for you. East Vancouver. Subsidized housing for seniors. Studio apartment, $300 a month. Your pension will cover it easily. You'll be fine. Brandon, please. Please don't do this. I'm your father. Something flickered across his face. Maybe guilt. Maybe just impatience. I'll have your stuff dropped off at the new address. Here. He handed me a piece of paper with an address on East Hastings. Move-in date is Monday. That gives you 4 days. 4 days? Brandon, it's Thursday. Where am I supposed to stay until Monday? There are hotels. Here. He pulled out his wallet, handed me 2 20s. This should help. $40? For 4 days? Dad, I'm sorry it has to be this way, but you forced my hand. If you just helped me when I asked, none of this would be necessary. This is on you. He closed the door. I heard the new lock click. I stood there on the porch I'd rebuilt 12 years ago with Linda supervising, holding my bag and $40, and I couldn't make my brain work. This wasn't real. This couldn't be happening. A neighbor, Mrs. Park, came out of her house. "Robert, are you okay? What's going on?" I couldn't even answer her. I just walked away. I spent the first night in my car, a 2004 Honda Civic I'd kept in good shape. It was parked 2 blocks away because Brandon had taken my spot in the driveway. I made it until about 3 in the morning before the cold got unbearable, even with the engine running intermittently. The temperature had dropped to -8, unusual for Vancouver, and I was shaking so hard I couldn't hold my phone steady to call anyone. Who would I call anyway? My brother in Toronto hadn't spoken to me in 5 years after a fight about our mother's estate. Linda's sister blamed me for Linda's death, said I should have caught the cancer sooner, as if I had X-ray vision. My friends from work were all younger, moved away, or dead. The next morning, stiff and exhausted, I drove to a gas station and used their bathroom. The mirror showed me what I'd become overnight. An old man with gray stubble, red eyes, wearing yesterday's clothes. When had I gotten so old? I spent Friday trying to fix this. I went to my bank. They were sympathetic but firm. Brandon had power of attorney. Everything looked legal. Without a lawyer proving mental incompetence or fraud, there was nothing they could do. I went to a lawyer's office. The receptionist squeezed me in for a 15-minute consultation. The lawyer, a young woman probably 30, listened to my story. Mr. Chen, this is elder financial abuse, and it's illegal, but proving it will take time. We'd need to file in court, demonstrate that your son misused the power of attorney. That could take months and cost $30,000 or more. I don't have $30,000. I don't have anything. There are legal aid services, but they're backlogged. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. This is a terrible situation. The best I can suggest is filing a police report and applying for emergency legal aid. I filed the police report. The officer was kind but clearly overwhelmed. We'll investigate, Mr. Chen, but civil matters like property transfers take time. Your son technically has power of attorney, which makes this complicated. Friday night, I slept in the car again, parked behind a grocery store in East Van. Saturday morning, I woke up to someone banging on my window. A security guard told me to move along. I drove to a Tim Hortons, ordered a small coffee with my remaining money, $15.60 now, and sat there for 4 hours. When I went to the bathroom, I noticed my hands were shaking constantly. My blood pressure medication was in the house. My heart pills too. Saturday night, I couldn't take the car anymore. I was so cold, so tired, and I realized I could die out here. People freeze in their cars every winter. At 68, with high blood pressure and a heart condition, I wouldn't last long. I looked up homeless shelters. There was one on Cordova Street in the downtown east side. I'd driven past it 1,000 times. Never imagined I'd need it. The shelter was a converted warehouse, maybe 80 cots lined up in rows. The smell hit me first. Unwashed bodies, disinfectant, something else I couldn't identify. Depression, maybe. Despair has a smell. A woman at the intake desk, maybe 50, with kind eyes, checked me in. First time? Yes. I'm Sandra. We have dinner until 7. Lights out at 10. You'll need to be out by 7 tomorrow morning, but you can come back tomorrow evening. Okay? Okay. She handed me a thin blanket and pointed to an empty cot in the middle of the room. I walked past men of all ages, most younger than me, some clearly struggling with addiction or mental illness, some just down on their luck. I sat on the cot and tried not to cry. First night's always the hardest. I looked up. The man on the next cot was maybe in his mid-50s, Latino, with gray streaking his black hair. He had the weathered look of someone who'd spent years outside, but his eyes were clear and sharp. Yeah, I managed. I'm Miguel. Robert. You got family, Robert? The question almost broke me. I thought I did. He nodded, like that explained everything. Me too. Once. Long time ago. We didn't talk after that, but there was something comforting about his presence. Like I wasn't completely alone. Sunday was the longest day of my life. I left the shelter at 7. Spent the day in the public library to stay warm. Went back to the shelter at 6. Miguel was already there. Same cot. You eat yet? He asked. Not hungry. You gotta eat, man. Can't survive on nothing. He walked me to the cafeteria line. Made sure I got food. Shepherd's pie. Green beans. Bread. It was probably the best meal I'd had in 3 days, which said something terrible about where I was. Thank you, I said. We look out for each other here. That's how it works. Monday I was supposed to move into the subsidized housing. I took the bus to the address Brandon had given me. The building was a 5-story concrete block with bars on the ground floor windows. The studio was 320 square feet, smaller than my old garage. There was a hot plate, a bathroom with a shower that had black mold, and a window that looked directly at a brick wall. The building manager, a man who introduced himself only as Dave, took my first and last month's rent, $600. I had $740 left from my pension check, which had come through Friday. "You're lucky," Dave said. "Usually got a waiting list a mile long." I moved in with my one bag. Brandon had promised to deliver my stuff. Nothing came. I called him twice. Both went to voicemail. That night, lying on a mattress that smelled like cigarettes and regret, I thought about Linda. What would she say if she could see me now? Would she blame me for not seeing what Brandon had become? Or would she blame herself for enabling him too? I stayed in that apartment for 3 days. On Thursday, I went back to my house in Kitsilano. A realtor's sign was up. Sold. Brandon's car wasn't in the driveway. A young couple was taking pictures in front, probably the buyers, excited about their new home. I walked away before they could see me crying. I went back to the shelter that night. The apartment felt like giving up, like admitting this was my life now. At least the shelter felt temporary, like I was still trying to figure things out. Miguel was there. Same spot. "Thought you had a place?" "I did. I do. It's just, I get it. Hard to be alone when your head's this messed up." Over the next week, we talked. Miguel had been in the Canadian Forces, served in Afghanistan, came back with PTSD and a back injury. Lost his marriage, lost his job, ended up on the streets about 8 years ago. "Never thought it'd be me, you know," he said. "I had plans, career, family. Then one day you wake up and realize you're invisible. People look right through you. How do you deal with it?" "Day by day, brother. Some days are easier than others. And you help people when you can. Makes you feel human again." He introduced me to others. Tommy, who'd been a chef before meth, destroyed his life but was 2 years clean now. Sarah, a woman in her 40s who'd fled domestic violence and was waiting for subsidized housing. James, a kid barely 20 who'd aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. They treated me better than my own son had. 2 weeks after I moved into the shelter rotation, Miguel asked me about my situation. I told him everything. The gambling debts, the drugging, the stolen house, everything. His face went hard. "That's elder abuse, financial exploitation. Your son should be in jail." I filed a police report. They said it's complicated because of the power of attorney. It's not complicated. It's theft. "He drugged you, Robert. That's assault too." "I can't prove it." "Maybe you can. You know anyone at that hospital? Anyone who could pull your admission records? Toxicology reports?" I thought about it. I worked on the building expansion at Vancouver General 15 years ago. I knew some of the administration back then, but I don't know if anyone's still there. Worth a try. And I might know someone who can help. Used to serve with a guy, Jake Harris. He's a detective now, VPD. Deals with financial crimes. Let me reach out. "Miguel, why are you helping me? You don't even know me." He was quiet for a long moment. "You remind me of my dad. He was an engineer too. Worked his whole life, tried to do right by everyone. My stepmom took everything after he died. I was deployed, couldn't fight it. By the time I got back, it was too late. He died in a care home. Alone, with nothing. I wasn't there for him. Maybe helping you makes up for that a little." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. 3 days later, Miguel came back from his day with a phone number. "Jake said he'd meet with you. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., coffee shop, on Commercial Drive." Detective Jake Harris was maybe 45, built like he still did military PT, with the same watchful eyes Miguel had. He listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes. "This is a slam-dunk case if we can prove the drugging," he said finally. "The power of attorney abuse is harder, but the assault charge would open everything up. We'd need the hospital records, and you'd need to give a formal statement." I already filed a report. I read it. But that went to general investigation. This would come through financial crimes, different weight. I'd personally handle it. And Robert, I'm going to be straight with you. Your son has priors. 2 fraud charges, both pleaded down. If we can make this stick. He's looking at real time. My stomach twisted. He's my son. He's a criminal who drugged his father and stole his house. You don't owe him protection. I know. I need to think about it. Don't think too long. The house sale closed yesterday. That money's going to disappear fast. I spent the weekend wrestling with it. Could I really send my son to prison? Linda's voice kept echoing in my head, something she'd said years ago when Brandon was 20 and we'd caught him stealing from my wallet. Protecting him from consequences isn't love, Robert. It's enabling. Monday morning, I met Jake at the police station and gave my formal statement. He got a warrant for the hospital records. The toxicology report showed zopiclone levels consistent with 8 to 10 pills, well above therapeutic dose. The timeline matched. Brandon's visit, the tea, my collapse. We're going to bring him in for questioning, Jake said. I wanted to give you a heads up. They arrested Brandon on a Wednesday afternoon at a casino in Richmond. Jake called me afterward. He lawyered up immediately. No surprise there. But Robert, we searched his apartment. Found forged documents, bank statements showing he wired most of the house money to offshore accounts. This is bigger than we thought. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, the Crown froze Brandon's accounts. What was left of them? Turns out he'd already gambled or transferred away 1.7 of the 2.1 million. 400,000 was frozen, held as evidence. I kept going to the shelter, partially because the studio was depressing, partially because Miguel and the others had become something like friends, real friends, who didn't want anything from me except companionship. One night, about a month after Brandon's arrest, Miguel and I were playing chess on a board Tommy had salvaged from somewhere. Miguel was winning, as usual. Can I tell you something? He said. Of course. That day we met. When you showed up at intake, I recognized you. I looked up from the board. What? Not your face. Took me a while to place it, but your name. Robert Chen, structural engineer. You worked on the Force's base expansion in Chilliwack, right? About 30 years ago? 29 years ago, yeah? How did you... I was there. Fresh recruit. Just 18. There was an accident. Scaffolding collapsed during construction. I was underneath when it came down. Someone pulled me out, stayed with me until the medics came. Probably saved my life. The guys said it was one of the engineers. You? I remembered. A kid, terrified, pinned under metal framework. I'd been doing a site inspection, heard the crash, ran over. We'd gotten him out just before the rest came down. That was you? That was me. You stayed with me the whole time. Kept talking to me, kept me calm. I never got a chance to thank you. You were gone when I got out of hospital. I stared at him. Miguel, that was 30 years ago. You've been living on the streets for 8 years. Why didn't you say anything when you saw me? Would you have believed me? Would you have trusted it? You needed to know I was helping you because you're a good person who deserved help, not because of some debt from 3 decades ago. You don't owe me anything. Yeah, I do. You saved my life then. Figure I can help save it now. Different kind of saving. I didn't know what to say. The universe felt too strange, too circular. Besides, Miguel grinned, you're terrible at chess. Someone needs to stick around and teach you properly. The trial took 3 months to get to. Brandon pleaded guilty to assault, elder abuse, fraud, and forgery in exchange for a reduced sentence, 5 years. Could have been 10. At the sentencing hearing, I had to give a victim impact statement. I sat in the witness box, looked at my son in his cheap suit, and tried to find something to say. When my wife Linda was dying, she made me promise to take care of our son. I thought that meant giving him money, helping him out of jams, being there whenever he needed me. I thought that was love, but I was wrong. Real love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. Real love means expecting better from them, not enabling worse. I failed you, Brandon, by always bailing you out, and you failed me by seeing my love as weakness to exploit. I forgive you, but I can't have you in my life anymore. I hope prison gives you time to become someone your mother would be proud of. Brandon cried. I don't know if it was genuine or performance. I didn't stay to find out. The court ordered restitution. Whatever money was recovered would go to me, after legal fees and court costs. The lawyer estimated I'd get back maybe 250,000 of the 400 frozen. Not enough to buy another house in Kitsilano. but enough to start over. That evening, I went to the shelter for dinner. Miguel was there, like always. "How'd it go?" he asked. "He got 5 years. Miguel nodded. "How do you feel?" "Relieved. Sad. Like I should feel worse than I do." "You feel how you feel. That's okay." We ate in silence for a while. Then I said, "Miguel, I've been thinking. When I get that money back, I want to do something with it." "Yeah?" "There are hundreds of veterans in this city who can't get the help they need. PTSD, addictions, disabilities. The system fails them. I was thinking, maybe we could start something. A support center, halfway house, something that actually works." Miguel looked at me. "We? If you're interested. I've got project management experience. You've got lived experience and connections. Between us, we could maybe make something happen." "Robert, that's a massive undertaking. I'm 68. I've got time. And I've got a reason now. You saved my life twice, Miguel. Once when I was buried under scaffolding, and once when I was buried under despair. Let me return the favor for others." He smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from him. Yeah, let's do it." The restitution came through 6 months later. $237,000. I used it to lease a building in East Van, an old motel that had been condemned but had good bones. Miguel and I spent a year renovating, hiring some of the guys from the shelter to help with construction. Tommy designed the kitchen. Sarah handled intake protocols. James, the kid, trained as a peer support counselor. We called it Second Chance's House. 30 beds, case management, mental health support, job training. We partnered with Veterans Affairs for funding and got grants from the city. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. 3 years after he went to prison, Brandon wrote me a letter. It was the first contact we'd had since the sentencing. "Dad, I've been in therapy, real therapy, dealing with the gambling addiction and everything else. I'm not asking for forgiveness or money or anything. I just want you to know I understand now what I did to you. You didn't deserve it. Mom didn't raise me to be that person, and I'm ashamed of who I became. I'm working on being better. I'm working on being someone you could be proud of. I hope you're doing okay. I think about you every day. Love, Brandon." I wrote back. Told him about the center, about Miguel, about finding purpose in helping others. Told him I'd forgiven him but needed time before I could have him in my life again. Told him to focus on his own recovery and we'd see what the future held. He writes every month now. The letters are getting better, more honest, less performative. His release date is coming up in 8 months. I don't know what happens then, but I'm open to seeing who he's become. This morning, I woke up in the small apartment above Second Chance's house. Not fancy, but it's mine, paid for with honest work and clear conscience. Miguel lives in the apartment next door. We have coffee together every morning, plan the day, argue about chess strategies. Sometimes I think about that freezing night in January 4 years ago, sitting on a cot in a shelter, thinking my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything. My home, my savings, my family, my dignity. Turns out I hadn't lost anything that mattered. I'd just been carrying around the wrong definition of wealth. Real wealth isn't measured in houses or bank accounts. It's measured in purpose, in connections, in people who show up for you when you have nothing to offer in return. Miguel saved my life twice. The first time, I pulled him from under rubble. The second time, he pulled me from under despair. We're even now. But we keep going anyway, pulling others up, because that's what family does. Real family. The kind you choose and the kind that chooses you.